In this PowerPoint presentation, I will explain the starting point of realism, define realism, explain realism in American literature and its most important figures. Then I will go on to explain American realism's view regarding women and slavery. Realism is an artistic and literary movement that started in France by the French artist Gustave Courbet in mid-19th century after the French Civil War, as French artists started to reject Romanticism that dominated art and literature in France at that period of time. And to define realism as a literary movement, it is a movement that depicts reality just as it is in real life. Take Ibsen's A Doll's House, for instance. It is a play that portrays universal issues and questions that apply in all societies like gender roles. It can also be defined as a reaction against Romanticism that merely focuses on the sublime idealism, transcending the physical body and the metaphysical. Realism is a dramatic shift from the Romantic movement as it ditches the extreme exaggeration of emotions and drama, and it also abandons imagination and memories. Realism also sheds light on experiences that take place in reality and pays no detail or attention to what cannot be seen or felt in real life, as it only takes ordinary people in ordinary surroundings engaged in real activities and uses them as subjects for works marked under realism. And realists also desire to depict reality with no idealization to the daily life of the common man. Now let's start talking about realism in America. It started in the 1830s in America, but became prominent towards the end of the American Civil War, and it lasted up until the early 20th century. The reason why realism became so dominant in this period in America goes back to the American Civil War, as it led to huge cultural changes in the American society. The American Civil War was the bloodiest war in America's history, as you can see by this pie chart of United States war deaths. However, Americans were at first romanticizing the war with no picture in mind of what war would be like. Take the Battle of Manassas in 1861, for example. Citizens would go to their countryside with their picnic gadgets, sit on hills and watch the battlefield. They had in mind that this is going to be a quick romantic clash and everyone will go their way. But as you can see by this, and tell by this, that Americans lacked realism, but started to come at their senses that such ideal world did not exist, and they needed something to relate to, which is why realism came and dislodged Romanticism. Similarly to realism in France, American realism focuses on the middle class and their lives, leaving the rural side and going to the urban side of the country, revealing this huge gap between classes and providing dark details when describing reality in colloquial dialects, and it most definitely does not idealize the picture. The most important realist figures are artists like Homer and Eakins, as they are the first to announce the rise of American realism. The second one is Mark Twain. He wrote The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn in 1884, which is the perfect example of literary realism as it tackles real issues in society like race, identity, and social status. The third one is Ambrose Bierce. He was an American Civil War veteran, and the war's bloodiness made him suspicious of political and military leaders. His anti-war message is displayed in his work An Occurrence at Owl Creek Ridge. The last one is Charlotte Gilman. She wrote The Yellow Wallpaper, where she tackles psychological deterioration and portrays the life of women in the 19th century. Realism allowed women to take an approach by embracing their femininity and gaining high statuses. The authors of this movement aided women's empowerment through their works and inspired numerous women to lean towards the demand of equal rights for both sexes. Although black slaves were officially freed from the slavery, they were not still treated equally, as they were targets for intense racism and ignorance wherever they went. This stopped them from becoming engaged in the American society and gaining their full rights. Realists took this burden upon themselves, like Twain, who discussed slavery in his novel The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and the fact that the situation for blacks didn't improve even after being freed from slavery. In conclusion, we can deduce that realism is a movement that detaches from objectivity and focuses on accuracy by seeking truth as it is without idealization to the picture, whether it was painted on a canvas or depicted on a piece of paper. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.